The Zodiac Killer, the unsolved mystery of a serial killer. The Zodiac Killer is one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, and despite over 50 years of investigation, the killer's identity remains unknown. Active in Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, the Zodiac Killer is confirmed to have killed at least 5 people, though he claimed to have murdered as many as 37. The Zodiac taunted police and the media with cryptic letters, ciphers, and mysterious phone calls, turning his brutal crimes into one of the most baffling unsolved cases of all time. The murders. The Zodiac's confirmed killing spree began on December 20, 1968, when high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were shot and killed while parked on a remote road in Benicia, California. The couple had gone out on their first date, and they were sitting in their car when an unknown assailant approached and opened fire, killing both teenagers. 7 months later, on July 4, 1969, the Zodiac struck again. This time, he attacked Darlene Ferrin and Michael Maydew, as they sat in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. Ferrin was killed, but Maydew survived despite being shot multiple times. Shortly after the attack, the killer called the Vallejo Police Department to report the crime, taking credit for both the Blue Rock Springs and the Jensen-Faraday murders. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac killed again, this time attacking Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard as they picnicked near Lake Berryessa in Napa County. The killer approached them wearing a black executioner-style hood with the Zodiac symbol, a circle with a cross, on his chest. He tied the couple up before stabbing them repeatedly. Hartnell survived, but Shepard died 2 days later from her injuries. The final confirmed Zodiac killing occurred on October 11, 1969, when the killer shot Paul Stein, a San Francisco cab driver, in the head at point-blank range. Unlike the previous murders, this killing took place in a busy residential neighborhood, and several witnesses saw a man leaving the scene. The Zodiac letters and ciphers. What set the Zodiac apart from other serial killers was his constant communication with the police and media. He sent a series of letters to newspapers, including the San Francisco Chronicle and the Vallejo Times-Herald, in which he claimed responsibility for the murders and provided details that only the killer would know. The letters were filled with threats, taunts, and strange ciphers that he dared the public and law enforcement to solve. One of the most famous ciphers, the Zodiac 408 cipher, was cracked by a high school teacher and his wife in 1969. The decoded message read, "Despite this breakthrough, several other ciphers sent by the Zodiac remain unsolved to this day, including the Zodiac 340 cipher, which has baffled cryptologists for decades." The Zodiac's letters also contained threats of future killings, claims of more murders, and strange symbols, such as the crosshair-like symbol he used to sign his letters. The killer even taunted the police by saying they would never catch him, despite his overt communications and detailed admissions of his crimes. The suspects. Over the years, many suspects have been proposed in the Zodiac case, but none have been definitively identified as the killer. Some of the most notable suspects include Arthur Lee Allen, one of the most well-known suspects. Allen was a convicted child molester who lived in Vallejo and had a history of violent behavior. Several pieces of circumstantial evidence linked Allen to the Zodiac crimes, including statements made by friends and his possession of Zodiac-like items. However, Allen was never charged, and he died in 1992. Richard Gajkowski, a journalist who worked for a San Francisco counterculture newspaper, Gajkowski was suspected due to similarities between his writing style and the Zodiac's letters. However, there was no definitive evidence linking him to the crimes. Lawrence Kane, a convicted sex offender and possible stalker of one of the Zodiac's potential victims, Kane matched witness descriptions and had a background in cryptography. He was investigated by police but never charged. Ross Sullivan. Sullivan was a library worker in Riverside, California, who had exhibited strange behavior after the murder of Cherie Jo Bates, a crime some believe was an early Zodiac killing. Sullivan resembled descriptions of the Zodiac, but no conclusive evidence was found. The sheer number of suspects, combined with the Zodiac's cryptic nature, has made it nearly impossible for law enforcement to definitively identify the killer. Each new suspect seems to bring more questions than answers, and the case has remained frustratingly elusive. Unsolved mysteries and theories. Over time, various theories about the Zodiac's identity and motives have emerged. Some believe the Zodiac may have been a former military serviceman due to his proficiency with weapons and codes, while others think he may have been a disgruntled loner with deep-seated psychological issues. Some researchers believe that the Zodiac may have continued killing after the confirmed murders, while others speculate that the killer either died or was incarcerated for another crime, which is why the letters and murders stopped abruptly in the 1970s. Despite numerous attempts to crack the remaining ciphers and reanalyze the case using modern forensic techniques, including DNA analysis, the Zodiac Killer's identity remains one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries in criminal history. The Zodiac Killer's legacy. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror in Northern California not only left behind a trail of unsolved murders but also cemented his place as one of the most notorious serial killers in popular culture. Books, documentaries, films, and true crime discussions have kept the mystery alive for decades, with countless amateur sleuths and professional investigators continuing to work on the case. The Zodiac's combination of random violence, cryptic communication, and taunting of the police created a new archetype for the modern serial killer, one that has influenced both real-life cases and fictional portrayals of murderers ever since. The killer still at large. Despite the passage of over 50 years, the Zodiac Killer remains at large, and the families of his victims continue to wait for justice. The case remains open with the San Francisco Police Department, and investigators continue to analyze new leads and evidence as it emerges. The Zodiac Killer's cryptic letters and unsolved ciphers still captivate the public's imagination, and the mystery of his identity remains one of the greatest unsolved cases in American history. Whether the Zodiac is dead or alive, his legacy as an elusive and terrifying figure endures to this day.